Hello and greetings. Good morning. For some days, I was looking to talk about this and a little confused how to go about it. This is about the Supreme Court orders on Patanjali recently banning all sorts of advertisements, particularly with respect to health. Now, this is an interesting one, and I, as an Ayurvedic physician, must endorse it rather than kind of trying to stand against it or saying that it is in any motivation. For the simple reason, when Baba Ramdev states effects as curative for things like blood pressure or diabetes or anything else, even modern medicine doesn't, which goes by a lot of so called scientific evidence and burden of evidence proof. They always question the relevance of evidence, and we Ayurvedics often discuss it in the light of text which is 6,000 years old. Both do not meet. First of all, the word cure means permanent remission, something that cannot happen again or must not happen again. Otherwise, it is remission, it is reversal, it is control, but to say cure is incorrect. The second point is that you cannot blame another system, you cannot downgrade another system, you cannot run down another system to promote yourself. That is completely unethical. Ayurveda has its own scoring points. Being an Ayurveda physician, I know I can talk about 100 of them. But I have never, and I would never say that you run down modern medicine. They are a system with their limitations, with their high points. We are a system with our limitations and our high points. There are areas, a number of areas, which can be brought under the same umbrella, under the same language, needs proper understanding, proper dedicated studies around them, and those studies have to be not in the medical domain but in the scientific domain, areas of theoretical science, areas of physics, areas of mathematics, and those will bring you the answers to points where modern medicine and Ayurveda come together. 20 years into my professional life, today I can always say this because I have always looked at Ayurveda through a prism wherein I can find the colors of the rainbow that come together as a meeting ground, as a common language between modern science and Ayurveda as a common medium of communication. Most important is communication. Why Baba Ramdev is to be actually treated the way the Honorable Supreme Court has treated is because he singles out certain colors. That's not communication. Communication needs to be clear, it needs to be impartial, it can only, as an advertising standpoint, highlight your goods, but it cannot also hide your bads. It has to communicate both. Unfortunately, in the present day of advertising, marketing has taken a back seat. Proper communication is missing. People are not talking of all the pros and cons. People are shuffling between facts and in turn trying to create a market or create a product by running down products and running down markets. That may be a good idea in other spheres, but when it comes to anything that a human has to consume and internalize by consuming it within the body, it has to have all the cautions not thrown to the wind. Sadly, Ayurveda is propagated and promoted by non doctors, non physicians. They are either People like Baba Ramdev, who have nothing to do with the system but are actually exploiting loopholes to run a business, or it is promoted by people who run multi-level marketing things, where every single herb, every single thing becomes Ayurvedic. They can promote even a calcium as Ayurvedic without even knowing what it is Ayurvedic or what is the Ayurvedic significance of it. Fact is, as far as I remember in my uh, studies in Ras Shastra or in Padarth Vigyan, there is a line which says and which comes to mean that anything and everything in this world can be medicine when used for the purpose of medicine and in proportions of medicine. So Ayurveda in those terms is very, very simple. Everything is Ayurvedic. But how do you quantify? How do you naturalize? How do I come to a point where I communicate that this use of this substance is medicinal? That is a discussion purely and purely that Ayurvedic physicians can and must. There's a huge lobby of Ayurvedic physicians who follows people like Baba Ramdev. They really adore them because they lack the idea that they can stand alone and talk about their learnings. They invoke ideas which are non scientific. Why at all? That means you crammed up and you just uh, had your degrees in hand to practice anything that you wanted. And in those situations, we find majority of Ayurvedic physicians practicing in the rural spaces where medical services are missing and exploiting the lack of presence of physicians. That is not competition. That is not even ethical work. I'm sorry, I might be being critical about a lot many people who work in the same space as I do. However, I would certainly buy this point that even if in your state modern medicine is allowed to practice, you should have the reason when you are prescribing an antibiotic. Just because it is allowed you're prescribing an antibiotic does not mean you're ethical. Or say just as an example, for a place where you might be able to handle a thing by using cefodoxime, I have seen Ayurvedic physicians prescribing something like meropenem. Does that justify? No. So permissions are to make things easy for people, but your practice can be abusive. You have to be cautious. I have seen Ayurvedic physicians practicing in US, in other countries outside India, where the system is not even recognized, with things that may be detrimental under local laws and may bring your customer or your patient under a situation where he might have to lose his insurance cover. You're playing with the laws of the land in that country. You are allowed to do things as food supplements. Why do you have to grow beyond a point just to naturalize an idea that you are an Ayurvedic physician and you know better than the best? Fact is, we do not. We know what we know. We are confident about it. But are we reading things? Are we upgrading ourselves? Are we willing to take on the misgivings, the misinformation regarding Ayurveda in a better sense? Sorry to say, many of my fellow Ayurvedic physicians or my juniors or even seniors may not even have the comprehensive idea that theoretical sciences is one course domain and mathematics that is essential for Ayurveda and is just not taught. Ayurveda has never been explored on those lines by the Ayurveda fraternity, at least. May have been explored by the fraternity in physics somewhere on the globe. I will not comment on that part. But definitely the Ayurvedic fraternity has just not even tried to touch it. Whereas a lot of theories around the Panch Mahabhut, lot of facts around many other things can only be accommodated and understood once you explore Ayurveda on those platforms of theoretical science and mathematics. Without it, you're very, very far. You can't even just say that why it is reflecting as much as so. So it's just not about a simple reprimand that Supreme Court gives and bans advertisement from Patanjali. The far-reaching consequences should actually take it to a point where the Ayurveda education system gears up and upgrades itself in the right direction. I have in person in 20 years, yes, explored these ideas that I'm talking about. I still look at those ideas, I work around those ideas. That is my personal effort I have done beyond my books in Ayurveda. And it has seen a lot of refining in my approaches. And then I say that whatever is written in our classical texts, Charak or Sushrut particularly, is not incorrect at all. It is 100% correct. But the cliche is it is directional. You have to interpret things from the contemporary, not what is mentioned 6,000 years ago. Those are principles. They need to be interpreted, reinterpreted from time to time, and based on those, you draw conclusions that become contemporary. I hope people look at it, take it in a constructive way. I am open to discussions on these ideas as far as Ayurveda education is concerned, refining Ayurveda is concerned. I'm looking to work on these. There are platforms or preparations onto this. Anyone willing, you're welcome to discuss it with me. Thank you.